All right, so now that we are recording, I want to say good evening and welcome everyone to our virtual webinar on back to school safety and incorporating traffic safety into your school's policies and procedures. I'm Brooke Oliveri. I manage a campaign called Walk Safe Long Island with my partners here on the call. And in my primary role, I manage an initiative called the Long Island Health Collaborative. So we've developed this Walk Safe Long Island campaign on behalf of the New York Coalition for Transportation Safety. Those are the experts that you'll hear from tonight representing NYCTS. And one of the focus populations is students here on Long Island, and we're really making an effort to reach schools and students at this point in time. So we thought, what better time than when folks are going back to school? So a little bit more about us. This is a grant-funded campaign funded by the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And I already kind of covered the connection between the Long Island Health Collaborative and the New York Coalition for Transportation Safety. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to the experts that I'll turn it over to in just a moment. So sorry, my cat's making an appearance. So you're going to hear from Cynthia Brown. She's the executive director of the New York Coalition for Transportation Safety. We're also joined by Cristina Furlong, project director for NYCTS, and Liz Lee, research administrator and certified child seat safety technician. And Liz is responsible for a lot of the great data that we're going to talk about tonight as well. And before I turn it over to our speakers, I'll just say if you have any questions or points to make during the presentation, we are really open to Q&A, interjections, so please feel free to unmute yourself at any time. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia Brown.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pedestrian safety, first of all. I don't know how much attention you paid to the statistics that appear in the newspaper practically every day, but without a doubt, I think this past week is a perfect example. We've had a lot of pedestrians. We've had people who are on motorbikes, people who are on scooters, young people. And they're having crashes at a really unfortunate rate, at which Liz will talk about a little bit. But the ones you're looking at here are ones that have taken place from 2019 through 2025. And so it's just to give you an example of what kind of as the word here, carnage, goes on our roads. So you could look up these stories if you're interested and find out what type of problem there is. But Newsday has been doing a very good job of highlighting it. They're doing a year-long study of traffic fatalities in Nassau and Suffolk County. Every week, if you sign up for it, it's free. They put out a newsletter that features one segment of it. This week, they talked about, last week actually, they talked about why the fact that the roads are in such poor condition contributes to, crashes. And this week they built on that a little bit because people complain that we're a high taxed area and yet we still can't get the roads repaired. There's also someone who commented on the whole thing who said we should get rid of asphalt, go back to concrete because concrete lasts so much longer. But I'm not an engineer, so I don't know whether that's true or false, but that was in the paper yesterday. Okay. All right, Liz, you want to take it?
As you can see, Newsday, you could go get these data maps at Newsday. You could zone in, they're interactive. You could choose your specific area and see where there have been crashes. If we look at Nassau County, there were over 1,000 people hit and 22 killed, and there were 547 bike crashes. With those hit on the bikes, the people who were hit the most were children ages 7 to 15. They were in 25% of those hit. In Suffolk County, children 7 to 15 were also the number one group hit with 23% of them. 643 pedestrians were hit and 469 bike crashes. As you can see, it's a real problem, and also teaching children especially to make sure they use the crosswalks could help prevent it, because and not be a statistic. Children could also be riding their bikes on the sidewalk. They're allowed. What if Cindy mentioned a little boy was hit in Flower Hill this past year? He was not in the crosswalk when he was hit. He crossed mid block and he was killed. So it's something we have to think about. It's a problem with all these people getting hit, and we need to fix it.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
And just to echo what Liz mentioned, these crash databases, they are, you can zoom in and customize the report that you want to generate. So if anyone on the call is interested in viewing their area or perhaps the area around your school district, please do reach out to us and we'd be happy to kind of take a closer look with you.
Okay. All right, the state has, through DMV, produced many pedestrian safety laws, all of which were intended to, lessen the number of people who are struck and killed by motor vehicles. So the most important one that you would see is the use of crosswalk and sidewalk whenever possible. There are locations, many locations in both Nassau and Suffolk County, but probably more in Suffolk County, where sidewalks are not available. So when that would happen, you're forced to walk into the street, a person should always walk facing traffic so that they can see, if a car is coming at them or not. The New York State also has a crosswalk law that a car or a truck or any other motor vehicle is supposed to stop for a pedestrian who is in a crosswalk. And even though this is the law, I would tell you to be very hesitant when that happens and to make sure that the motorist sees you. Either you raise your hand, let them know that you're there, and because sometimes these intersections where you're allowed to cross and where you would have the right of way are not striped the way all of them are. Any intersection, four-corner intersection, is considered to be a crosswalk for a pedestrian, but not all drivers know this. So drivers should yield to you when you're in a crosswalk, but again, it's not something that's taught to anybody. It's not something maybe you learned or a driver learned when they took their driving test, and it probably was, but who knows how long ago that was. And there are so many other moving violations out there that, usually pedestrian safety is not high on a lot of motorists' lists because they're so used to driving on highways and whatever that when they come onto a local street or an arterial, they really don't change their driving habits. Also, if there is a traffic signal at the intersection that has a walk signal on it, that should be obeyed by everybody, not just school children. And oftentimes you should also have a crossing guard there. So, but you most of the time do have to push that button to get the walk sign. So it's a good idea to teach children to push the button to wait till the walk light comes on. A lot of the lights now have actually timers on them that tell you how long you have to cross the street. Generally speaking, the children can make it across in the amount of time. Someone who has a disability or is older, it may be insufficient time to cross, so they might have to actually wait in the middle. Hopefully there's a safe place for them to wait. Again, you always walk on the sidewalk when there is one. You walk facing traffic. And pedestrians also have the right of way when a car is pulling in or out of traffic or across the sidewalk. If you live in a house with a driveway and you park in your driveway, children and pedestrians are using the sidewalk. It's your responsibility to make sure that there is not a child or anybody walking behind you when you're pulling out, because the person walking or riding a bike or whatever has the right of way. Also, excuse me. Pedestrians are not allowed on limited access roads such as an expressway or interstate. And I imagine the only time that you would actually be in that kind of circumstance would be perhaps if you had car trouble or you got a flat tire or whatever, but you should stay very close to your car and call for help you don't want to go walking about the Long Island Expressway. So, or the Northern State or any other main road for that matter. So these are just the major laws that are out there intended to keep pedestrians safe. So if you need any further information, we'll be happy to help you with it. Okay, Cristina.
Oh, you are muted, Cristina.
Good evening. So for bike safety laws, we do see a lot more people riding bikes of all ages. We do encourage people to bike to school, but we recognize that some neighborhoods are not really safe enough. People aren't sure of both the laws and the best practices for doing that. So first goes right down to your bike itself. Your bike has to be in good working order. So we say it's the ABCs, the air, brakes, and chain, that have to be checked. We would like everyone to know that we do throughout the year participate in activities where we go over all of these requirements and laws in workshops. We do it for scouts and school groups and whomever is interested in having that bike safety education. So air brakes and chains is the first step, and then knowing the laws are a good start. So you have a legal right to share the road on most roads, except interstates and highways, and I don't think that our market here, school communities, are talking about highways too much, but bikes are not allowed on highways. The law requires you to ride with traffic. People who come from other places might feel uncomfortable doing that. It's not the law everywhere in the world, but it is the law in the United States to ride with the direction of traffic, which is different than pedestrians who walk facing traffic. Bicyclists under 14 are required to wear a helmet. And I learned recently through one of our workshops with the Elmhurst Hospital trauma surgeon that 85% of the children who go to the ER with crash injuries have brain injuries. So we can't overstate the importance of wearing that helmet. It's going to protect you from the most likely crashes, low speed crashes, and falling off of your bike, which happens when you're young, even till you're older. So the helmet is a law. We also have the capacity to give away helmets sometimes and teach people how to use them properly and fit them properly. People riding bikes on a roadway should not ride more than 2 abreast. When being overtaken by a vehicle, people must ride single file. So this is for the drivers out there who are quick to get on their horn or be aggressive. The law does allow for people to ride together side by side. The bike must have brakes and a bell or a horn. Kids, teenagers like to ride fixie bikes. I think it's going out of style now, but for a while it was real popular to learn how to skid and maneuver, but it is against the law. So if your child is doing that, they risk being meeting law enforcement and having that turn out not so good for them. As for lights, there has to be a white front headlight. It has to be visible from 500 feet in front of the bike. That's both for the drivers and for the rider. Sometimes road surfaces are not that clean and safe, so you have to be able to see well and from a distance. The backlight has to be red or amber, and that has to be visible from 300 feet away. Side visibility is from 200 feet is covered by reflectors, which by law in the United States must be on every bike when it's sold to people. So the rear reflector has to be adequately secured, attached somewhere. We see them on the wheel and behind the seat most often. It is a requirement of the law. You could have it on your spoke. Reflectors must be colorless or amber on the front wheel. and colorless or red on the rear wheel. And as I noted, it is a law in the United States to have those reflectors on a bike when it's purchased. So those are the laws. Some of the suggestions are that you should make sure your child knows how to properly ride a bike, how to signal, how to make eye contact with drivers, to ride a safe distance away from parked cars. Getting doored is a major cause of injuries and fatalities. So that you're not supposed to ride right up against the cars. You're supposed to be 3 feet away. And there's legislation reflecting that. Before you set out to allow your child to ride to school, you should go over that route with them and make sure it's a safe route. Do that by looking at the traffic data that we provided and maps of the area. And sometimes you'll see slower speed limits or school zones or streets that have crossing guards and crosswalks. And that's the way to make, or, you know, we hope, bike lanes. And that would be the most obvious way and safest way to get to school. So going over the route is important. Children, when they're together, like to have a good time and have fun, but it can be a little distracting if groups of kids are riding together. So you should know your child and their abilities, because when you're just like in any other environment, peer pressure plays a part, and you might be tempted, the child might be tempted to do maneuvers or ride faster than they're comfortable doing. So being safe with friends is also important. Lastly, I would say, as far as the recommendations, to make sure there's secure bike parking. Although it's not safety, it is devastating to have a bike stolen. And so it is safety to make sure your school or community or after school program has a place to safely keep that bike too. That's it for me.
Drive carefully. School's open. Now that school's in session, we have to obey the speed limits. Usually they're 20 miles in a school zone. Children, watch out for children when they're by a school, because you know they're going to be darting in and out and not necessarily looking both ways. Also look for the other pedestrians. Parents might be running from the car double parked when they're dropping off their child. So make sure when you do bring your child to and from school, you should park in a safe area to make it a safe location near the building. Don't pass the school bus, because the school buses now, majority of them have cameras, and that's 5 points on your license. And it's also a $250 fine. So if you see that arm out, make sure you stop, because that arm means there's going to be a child not far behind. And don't automatically go, because even though that arm goes down, there could still be a child somewhere nearby. You should be always, children mimic what their parents do, so wear your seatbelts when you're in the car. Also, you shouldn't be texting and driving, because when you're texting and driving, you take your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. And did you know at 55 miles per hour, that 5-second distraction is equal to the driving the length of an entire football field with your eyes closed? This significant period of inattention could prevent you from seeing a child, let's say they darted out, or other vehicles, traffic signs, and changing the road conditions, making it incredibly dangerous. So don't text and drive. You don't realize how much that little bit of looking down could be impacted.
All right, and if I could just add here, several years ago, Nassau County installed speed cameras in school zones. And there was such a hullabaloo, for want of a better word, over it, that some of the cameras are still up there, but none of them work, and no one has gotten a ticket for it in a long time. But school zones do usually extend for at least a mile around the school, and many of them have speed limits of only 15 miles an hour. Some are 20. It's not a consistent speed. with the different school districts in either county. And it's also a problem with the, as Liz mentioned, with the drop off and pick up children in the vicinity of the school. And this is a real problem for school administration. And if it's at all possible, it's a good idea, I am sure, that the school already has different exits and entrances for different age groups. So to try to break up all the cars being in one spot. But it really would be a good idea if you work with your child and pick a spot that you can drop them off and possibly walk a half a block with them to the front door, which would really get rid of a lot of the congestion that is around the school at, in the morning and in the afternoon. And these situations lead them, selves often to crashes. And another thing that it's not a bad idea if they're able to do it is the PTA or the PA or the principal and supervisory staff might want to take a walk around the school and see what your signage looks like and see if your crosswalks are marked and see if there's a way that you could stripe the entrance roadway, the road that's in front of the entrance to the school, so that it becomes very apparent that you're not supposed to stop there. So these are the kind of things that for safety, it's a good idea to look into. Thank you.
I think this.
Christine.
Yeah, so micromobility, e-bikes, scooters, and also stand-up scooters are included in that capacity. They are flooding the markets and our communities for all ages. So any safety plan and any educating on bike and pedestrian safety has to include micromobility devices. We are capable, we have the capacity to do workshops there as well, which include our trauma expert, ourselves on education, and also fire department, which can inform people about the safety of the batteries and storage and things. That's another key feature that people who buy these bikes on the internet might not be aware of how dangerous they can be in that way. So we're always happy to speak more about that. But the laws vary in different communities. So we, on our webpage, have a section on micromobility with links to a lot of the different community guidelines in Long Island. But for the most part, the age is 16 is the minimum age to ride a micromobility device, e-bike or scooter on streets and not highways. The scooter can't go anywhere where the speed limit is more than 45 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour for an e-bike, it says. You cannot operate these devices on a sidewalk authorized by local law or ordinance. What I meant was mopeds, but we're not going to talk about that. No. Helmets are not always required. The helmet law is 16 and 17-year-old, because at 18 you don't have to wear a helmet and the minimum age to ride is 16. So basically if you're, sophomore, junior, seniors is getting on the e-bike, they need to be wearing a helmet. Only one rider per e-bike or scooter. I am from New York City, where we have a very successful e-bike program, and you often see children riding in the basket with their friends, and it's a no-no. It's so dangerous and it's not allowed. Once again, we don't want our kids having these confrontations with law enforcement where they're going to be scared and there's going to be a call to the parents. So going over the laws before you allow your child to go out riding is going to make them feel more comfortable in the event they don't listen to us and have a confrontation with law enforcement anyway. They were warned. So the laws, you can find like I said, on our webpage, and there are a lot of different circumstances, situations where kids have been injured and have died by being struck while riding these devices. What we like to say too is that with any motor vehicle crash, the biggest factors are like the weight of the vehicle and the speed of the vehicle. So relatively speaking, driving an e-bike should be safer than letting your kid drive a BMW. But because of the inconsistencies in the laws and the fact that they're so new, people are getting injured. What I can say is that these injuries are normally one person, the rider. The rider has gone through a red light and fallen off their bike. The rider has hit a pothole and went flying. The rider lost control, and so is more often than not, it's a single person injury when it happens.
And I just want to add, if we see there were a few children hit this past summer, these are only a few of the amount of children were hit. There were at least an additional 3 other children hit this past summer. There was a 12-year-old hit in Wantua who was flown to the hospital. There was a young boy hit in Wyandanch who was killed, and there was also an 11-year-old hit on a scooter by a car, but that was in Brooklyn. So it's
Yeah, like
and the
all those
children
people were
can't
not
ride the
legally
scooters
riding.
until they're 16. So it's a very concerning thing. Don't let your children ride the scooters because they're not allowed to.
So school safety is really what's most near and dear to my heart as a traffic safety educator. I think it's a great environment to teach traffic safety and law. Every school has a school safety plan. However, they don't include traffic safety, whereas like most of the injuries the age demographic that we're talking about, 5 to 17, the first, second, third highest cause of injury is automobile injury, traffic injury. So there's really no better place to educate the kids and also the caregivers and community about traffic safety. It's not really in too many school safety plans right now, but I think it's a great opportunity for schools to do that. Some of the ways that you could incorporate traffic safety at your school is to form a committee, either in the school leadership team, at those existing school safety meetings, or with your PTA. Have them do a site survey, invite your local law enforcement and tell them to come prepared to tell us what the speed limit is and where the safest crossing places are. They know, and they would be happy to help. So plan a committee meeting and everybody go do a site survey. Look at like when the crossing distance is too far, when the street should be a one-way street, and watch what the kids are doing when they get out of school so that you can make a better plan. Another part of that plan is arrival and dismissal at schools. It's a dangerous time. It's a frustrating time for parents. Nobody is more important than anybody else. So those kids walking deserve the right amount of space for them as those people getting dropped off. So that means you should have laws about double parking, about speeding, about blocking driveways or fire hydrants. It makes it unsafe for everybody. That double parker is going to pull out, without looking. It causes a lot of road rage and aggressive driving. So to start off the school year, that safety committee can draw up a little flyer to backpack home that says, these are our rules for everybody to be safe. Also, that could be a contract even that you can have the kids do as a project and send home and have the caregivers sign. Everybody agrees they're going to have a safe school. Also, schools should keep track of traffic incidents. If you have a crossing guard, they probably keep records, or whether the police department was called or somebody reported it. there should be a log of those incidents so that when you want to do advocacy and ask your county or elected officials to do some kind of infrastructure improvement, making a wider median or daylighting the corners or putting up new traffic lights, you can go to them with your own data that says, we researched this. This is what's going to reduce the injuries around our school. That could also include like different pickup locations or different start times for grades so that it's not so chaotic or hectic in the school environment. And that is something that's normally done as a safety measure for evacuations or bomb threats or bad weather. Every school does have a map of where the grades are dismissed and where they're supposed to arrive. So you could tweak that a little bit to include traffic safety in it. The walking kids come this way, or, you know, we advise you to cross over here instead of over there. And then you can make a curriculum or a seminar or a workshop that could be like one class period, or it could be a PTA meeting, and we would facilitate that. We're very happy to come in and do that site survey with you and look at what can be done, make suggestions, and talk in grade appropriate ways about traffic safety. And so we hope you will get in touch with us for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Christina. So we've talked a lot about, you know, how we think that you can engage your students in traffic safety. We just wanted to touch a little bit on other ways that we work to engage students across Long Island and get them tuned into this issue of pedestrian and traffic safety. One of which is our annual scholarship contest. So this year, the contest was a video contest, and we had two really wonderful winning entries that we really wanted to share with you all this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and play our winners' videos. The first is Amag Tiparetti from Wisconsin, and I'll go ahead and play that.
Teen rider crashes into a car exiting a
Can you all hear that before I continue?
driveway.
Blocking traffic, drivers are frustrated.
Micromobility chaos in suburbs. E-scooters are fun, but they're not just toys. Micromobility, including e-scooters, e-bikes, and many more, is absolutely exploding. Within just the past few years alone, e-scooters in the United States rose from 0 to over 88 million rides a year. With the popularity exploding, so do the crashes. UC San Francisco found a 21% increase in micromobility injuries from 2021 to 2022, and the American Journal of Public Health found almost 300% increase in e-bike related injuries. But the only way to discontinue that trend is to be more educated on how the laws pertaining to micromobility and pedestrian safety work. So let's dive right into it. Law number 1, Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1234. E-scooters follow bike laws, not pedestrian laws. This means that you must ride with traffic, not against traffic like pedestrians do. You must also ride as far to the right of the road as possible, and this may be in a shoulder if safe. And the most surprising fact is that sidewalks are not allowed. Those are for pedestrians, not for micromobility users. Law number 2, the 30-mile-per-hour rule. In New York State, you can't ride e-scooters on any road with a speed limit over 30 miles per hour. So in other words, local roads are allowed, but highways and expressways are not. Law number 3, VTL, Section 1281. Micromobility users follow many of the same traffic laws as vehicles. This means you must stop at red lights and stop signs, yield to pedestrians at crosswalks, and follow all posted traffic signals and signs. Law number 4, VTL Section 1286. E-scooters are not allowed if they go over 15 miles per hour. Additionally, if you're between 16 to 17 years old, like myself, helmets are mandatory. Micromobility isn't just a trend, it's the future of how we move. And with this new freedom comes an immense responsibility. Riding smart isn't just legal, it's life-saving. Be the rider who knows better, be the reason someone makes it home.
Pretty excellent entry. I'm sure you can see why we chose them as one of their winners this past year. And I'll just share also Itai Hershko's entry. He is from
Did you
Oceanside.
know that approximately 300 pedestrians are killed and 15,000 are injured on New York roads every year? That's not just a statistic, that's 300 families forever changed. My name is Itai, and when I was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder at age 2, I experienced the world differently than most people. Everyday sensations could be overwhelming, especially navigating busy streets where sounds, movements, and lights created chaos in my brain. New York's pedestrian laws exist to protect everyone, but they're especially crucial for those who experience the world differently: children, elderly people, and those with hidden disabilities like mine. Let's start with the basics. In New York, drivers must yield to pedestrians and crosswalks, both marked and unmarked. That's right. Every intersection is legally considered a crosswalk, even if there are no painted lines. But pedestrians have responsibilities too. We can't suddenly leave the curb when a vehicle is too close to stop safely. When I volunteered at Camp Anchor, which is a summer program for people with special needs, I saw how critical these laws are. For many campers, processing traffic patterns was a genuine challenge. So why is it important to educate our community about pedestrian safety? It's because knowledge can save lives. Because we share our streets with the people of all abilities and ages, and simple actions make a huge difference. Remove distractions like your phone and headphones before crossing, make eye contact with drivers, use crosswalks, even when it takes longer. Because when we understand the why behind traffic laws, we're more inclined to follow them and teach others to do the same. Traffic safety isn't just about following the rules. It's about creating a community where everyone, regardless of age, ability, or how they experience the world, can navigate safely and, most importantly, independently. Thank you.
So we were really particularly proud of those students and the work products that they submitted. And they did receive that scholarship funding, which is funded by the New York Coalition. So thanks so much, Cindy. So in addition to our annual scholarship contest, we just wanted to share some other offerings that we do have for really organizations of any kind, but particularly for schools. So we do have a kind of lecture style program that we present either virtually or in person. We tailor the data that we present to the location or venue. So in this case, it would be a school. And of course, we can tailor it to the needs of your school. Perhaps, you have a really large population of students who bike to school, et cetera. So we also offer free community walks called Walk Safe with a Doc that kind of combine health education with pedestrian safety education. And as Cristina mentioned, we also offer audits. If you do have areas surrounding your school that you would like to kind of go around and discuss with us and creates a case for perhaps some advocacy that you'd want to do, we'd be more than happy to assist with that. We also hold an annual Walk Bike Long Island Summit, which is an event where we typically have a panel of expert speakers and a different topic every year. Last year was all about advocacy. And then we also have many other community events like bike rodeos and car seat installations. Anything else that anyone else on the team would like to add as far as programs?
No, just that, for the schools, we've been, our requests come from elementary schools. And I shared with actually the gentleman from Newsday, and I think with you, Brooke, something that I heard on a public radio where young people were being asked about whether or not, why weren't they so anxious to have their driver's license? And the one young woman said, well, a group had come into her school and talked about safety when she was in elementary school. And it made such an impression on her and how dangerous it could be on the roads that she was not really interested in getting her driver's license and anytime soon. And so she preferred other means of transportation besides a car. So, where she felt safer. So I think that we're all part of the 3 E's, which is education, engineering, and enforcement. And we are the education piece. The enforcement piece is tough to get by because there are so many other seemingly more important reasons for the police to be occupied, so that eventually they only wind up being called to the scene of a really serious crash. So we know that there's a lot going on the roads with the dangerous drivers, and that's why we chose really to do this program at this time, because in addition to the fact that school starts now, it's getting dark much earlier, and we're going to lose daylight savings time soon. And those days are days that have high numbers of crashes when the light is, not as available either in the morning or in the evening. And so it's a time that you just want to remind the children, or if you walk with them, children do have to learn to walk and cross the street. So they're not always going to be on a school bus. And if they're on a school bus, they still have to get off and get home. So it's really important that they learn the rules of the road.
Thanks so much,
Any
Cindy.
questions?
Yes, we just had some additional resource links, and then yes, we wanted to open it up to any questions that anyone may have. And if you are watching this virtually after the fact, we would love to hear any questions you might have or any program inquiries or requests. We have my contact information up here for any inquiries or program requests, so please do feel free to reach out to us. And just thank you again for joining us and for your time this evening and for listening.